Hi friends, welcome back to the channel. Let's chill out and hack together. My name's Ash, I'm a cybersecurity enthusiast, and on this video, we're going to be going over the chill hack room on TryHackMe. For my notes, links, timestamps, see the description below. Otherwise, let's get started. So I've logged into TryHackMe and we're just going to look up chill hack. We've got security, real world, named injection, and SQL injection. So we've got a few hints here of what might be involved with this room. Great, so let's join the room. Shout out to the room creator, and let's go ahead and select start machine to get this booted. Now, we really don't have any more information rather than chill the hack out of the machine, an easy level CTF, capture flags, and have fun. We just have two tasks, a user flag and a root flag, no hints, and just a simple investigate. So I've logged into my Kali VM, created a directory for our chill hack room. Let's go get this IP and let's just see if we can ping it. Awesome. Let's start out with a rustscan and use the G switch. Make sure that we get a greppable output for just the ports. I like doing this for an initial scan. This gives us our ports pretty fast, and then we can do a further scan just on the ports that we found that are open and live. And let's just go ahead and make a backup or an output of this scan. So it looks like we've got some known ports on their correct port numbers, 21 being FTP, 22 being SSH, and 80 being HTTP. So let's go one by one. First, looking at our FTP, we have open on 21, and since we've used our -SV, it's gone ahead and run some known scripts for us. One being FTP add-on, which is checked if anonymous is allowed, and we do have that, which we can go ahead and it's even run it for us, and we can see there's a note.txt inside. So that'll be sort of our first port of command. But let's just have a quick look at our other ports, see if there's anything else that we've got. SSH looks pretty standard. Chances are of getting in at the moment without any further enumeration is pretty low, so we'll leave that alone. And then scroll down and we'll look at our port 80, which we can confirm is HTTP, and we've got an Apache web server running 2.4.29. Looks like it is running some sort of website, web server, as we've got a HTTP title, game info, so there's going to be something here. So let's start off with FTP first, and then we'll definitely check out that port 80. So we want to log in with FTP, and we want to run in active mode, and we just want to use our IP to get in, and we want to log in as anonymous. No password, so we can just go enter and we're in. LS for listing, and we can see there is that note.txt which we saw from Nmap, and we just go ahead and get that file and we can go bye-bye. Great, so we have our scan that we ran, and now we have this note.txt. So let's go ahead and see what that is all about. Anord, I don't know how to pronounce this, told me that there is some filtering on strings. Filtering on strings. Interesting. Being put in the command apart. So it looks like we have some sort of hint for something, and then two possible usernames here. So let's just start a loot.txt. Let's just get a list of users going. So we may need to come back to this in the future. Maybe we can log in as one with FTP or SSH or something else, maybe on the web server. So it's good to start collecting these or any other loot that we find. Now I'm just going to log back into FTP and let's just see if there is anything else there. So we can do LSLA, and we can see if there is anything hidden, which there isn't. And maybe we can change directories up and we can see we're definitely in the most root directory. There's nothing else here. So let's get out of there. So looking at our scan again, remember our other port to note was port 80. So let's go over and open up Firefox. So we can open up Firefox in the background like so, and that'll just run it here for us and go to the IP. It'll go over port 80 because we haven't specified a different port to use, as port 80 is the default. So we see the title game info like we saw earlier, and currently it doesn't look like there's much going on. Oh, there we go. That was just our load screen. So there is a lot going on. This looks like a pretty busy sport website. Cool, gaming info. Okay. So I'm just kind of checking footers. Maybe there's version numbers of what is running here. Let's use our extension Wapalizer. So it's not really giving us anything to note. Apache we already know. Bootstrap's just a CSS framework, so it's not like we can do anything with that I know. There is a login, but it looks like it's just a dead link. So this isn't actually going to be able to do anything for us. So looking at the page source, sometimes, you know, we might find some flags, we might find some like passwords or like some usernames or something commented in here, but this is a bit more of a realistic room, so less game CTF like and more realistic like, but it's still kind of worth just having a bit of a poke through. It looks like that this is from some sort of actual, I don't know, HTML framework website, so this is kind of real that they've copied for this room, but we can't see anything in here. And you know, maybe there's some sort of funky, like, I don't know, command we can put in the search, but again, it kind of looks like it's not actually doing anything, so it's all just static, like HTML, CSS, not actually interacting with the web server. Like we're not posting anything to it, if that makes sense. So what's next? We can't see any version numbers, and this isn't really giving us anything from just manually looking around. So let's run a fuzzing tool like ffuf. We can run b-u and pass through our URL to this Apache web app that we're trying to find out more. We just need to specify what we want to fuzz, and here it's going to be the directories and files. See if we can find anything. Let's go and put a word list through. So we'll find a sec list in the discovery web. And there's a whole lot in here. So let's use dir medium, and we want to specify some extensions to look for. So we know that this is running PHP, and another good idea is to look for like text files and maybe even some other hidden HTML files. I'm going to use -r for recursive in case it finds any directories. We can go ahead and look in those, and we can just tee this out to a backup file like so. I'm not really sure, but currently my ffuf program is like showing a lot of extra like comment and stuff. I'm not really sure why it's doing this. If you know, please let me know. It looks like it's finding some correct things like team.html, which we saw already. Great. So after that's finished completing, which may take a few minutes depending on your hardware, we can see that there is a hidden directory. So let's go Control-Shift-C. Let's paste that into our browser, and we're greeted with a pretty interesting input field. The placeholder is command, and the submit button says execute. So it's kind of hinting us towards running like server-like commands, and they're pretty onto us. We can't just list out things, but can we just at least look where we are? Great. Okay, so it looks like there's some sort of filtering on whatever is put in this field. So let's try who am I? Okay, so we're definitely running as data, and we know where we are. So we know a command that we can run. Can we like pipe that through and like run a command that we're not allowed to run? Okay, so it's still filtering. So it looks like it's picking up some commands regardless of how we run them. But maybe we can run the command in like an absolute file path, because we know it's probably in binary like directory on the server. It's like where our binaries live. So cool. So if we run it with the binary, we actually start seeing our input. So we've just got around that filter that's on there by just changing how we're using the command. So we can do something kind of nefarious by perhaps looking at our Etsy password, which is going to show us what users are on the system, and using our newly found way of getting around this filter. Let's see if we can see. Okay, great. It's not that readable, but at least we can see it. So we can see a couple of names that do look familiar that we saw back from the FTP. So that's pretty good. With an addition, we've got 3 users that we can log in with a shell. So these are kind of our targets that we want to go from a web server over into one of these. Great. Let's just put that additional user that we found here in our loot.txt. So now we have a way to kind of interact with the server. The next kind of step is we want to get a shell on this server. So let's look up Rev Shell's generator, and let's find a PHP. So something that's going to invoke PHP, it's going to use our Kali machine, our hacking machine, and it's going to grab that IP and the port, and then it's going to send back a shell for us to interact with. So let's copy that. We'll paste it in here, and then let's get a netcat listener on the exact same port that we've just made. Mine's just quad 3, but it could be anything as long as it's not clashing with another port. And let's execute that. Okay, so it looks like we are getting that filter again. So what can we do to change this? So perhaps PHP is being filtered. So maybe we can try this. Let's paste it in and execute. And that didn't give us a hacking GIF and message. So if we go back to our netcat instance, we don't have a reverse shell. So it didn't actually execute, but at least we didn't get the hacking message. So that's something. So this has changed it, but it's still not actually being executed. So if we just stop that for 1 second and we look up which PHP on our local system, it's not in bin PHP on our system, it's in user bin PHP. So it's quite possible that we've got around the filter by adding this in, but we're not actually running PHP because it's just not there. So let's copy that and try it. We'll paste that into our command field. We'll just make sure we have our netcat listener up and we'll go execute. And straight away, I can see that the request and response is just hanging, and that's a good sign. So going back, we can see we have an unknown user connecting back to us. Great. So now we have shell access. We can see who we are. We can run print working directory. We can see that we're in that secret directory that we found through fuzzing. So let's see if we can just get bash. No, I just want to elevate. I just want to get like a better shell. I'm just going to look up my hack notes, link in the description if you'd like. And I'm just going to copy over one of these Python full TTYs. Let's just see if we can use Python. Perhaps we need Python 3. Great, so we've got that. So we'll just copy over our Python 3 one. If we want to do things like clear, we need to set our term environment. So we're going to export the term environment variable and set that to xterm, and then we can kind of clear. So I'm not sure, but sometimes when I upgrade shells, like it'll repeat the command as you put it in, which gets kind of annoying. So we might try this one, shell interactive, and that doesn't do it, which is just a little bit nicer to use. And we'll just redo that, and now we can clear. So that's given us just a little bit better of an interactive shell to use. All right, so what's next? Let's start looking around and seeing if we can find anything. So let's just start exactly where we are, and let's look at this PHP file. And this was the PHP file that we've been interacting with via the browser. And we can actually see the filter that we're interacting with here. They've used this variable blacklist that they've made, and there's an array of like netcat, Python, bash, PHP, etc. So every time we were trying to do things like ls, like list things out, it was in this blacklist, and it would stop us from using it and then give us that "are you a hacker" like image and everything. So that kind of explains what was going on in the background. Let's look at this images directory, and it looks like these were the images that we were seeing on that secret directory. So it doesn't look like there's anything too interesting there. So let's go back a couple, and now it looks like we're in the main website directory that we saw earlier. So this is often var www html, and we can see there's a secret directory that we just got reverse shell access in, and we can see all the other HTML files like team.html that we saw earlier, and obviously index. So nothing too interesting there. Let's go up another directory and see what we've got. And we've got some files directory. Look in there, and we've got some more interesting files. Now, we haven't interacted with this because it's outside of our HTML. And we checked FTP, so there wasn't like another share. It's a weird place to kind of put share, like right next to your website. So we haven't actually seen any of this. So let's look at our files. We've got index.php, and we can see some credentials are in here. There is MySQL, there's a database, and we can see we've got root and a password. So let's just copy that. This may come in handy. And it looks like this is a login, and it's also referencing this hack.php. And we can see there is another hacker.php here. So it looks like getting to that PHP file, it says, "You've reached this far, look in the dark, you will find an answer." So if this was in the browser and we had this rendered, we'd have a background image of this GIF. And this is essentially telling us to look in the dark. I guess like it's pointing us to the images that is like it's using, I'm guessing. Before we kind of go down that rabbit hole, let's just have a look at this account.php, see if there's anything interesting in there. Looks like this is probably verifying the passwords that were put through index.php. Looks like it's converting it to a hash, checking if the hash is in the database with an SQL query. So it looks like there might be an SQL challenge. And I mean, we did see the SQLi back when we first looked at the room, like that was one of the tags on the room. But I haven't actually interacted with that yet. So let's look at this images. Wow, there's a lot of information for just one GIF. So we can set up a little web server here to transfer these files out. So let's go Python 3-m HTTP server, and let's just put this on port 8888. Let's just download our files, our images. We're kind of really interested in this one in particular. So we can download that from the web server, and it didn't find it. That is because we've put it on port 8888, and we need to specify what port to connect. And while we're there, we'll grab this one too, just in case. So go up, paste that in, and download that. Let's just make a loop directory, and we'll move these files into this loop directory. Let's go into it, and let's open up our GIF. Ooh, a GIF. Okay, so it's not broken or anything, and there's the hacker image. So this is definitely a GIF, and this is definitely a JPEG. So I'm kind of sus on this JPEG just because it looks like a large file size, so it probably shouldn't be that big. So what we can do is run a program like stegseek, which is a steganography tool, and it is not supported. So it's usually run against JPEGs. Well, that's good that I got that image, because I guess this is just a normal GIF, but it looks like this JPEG actually had something hiding in it. This is a good lesson to check all your eggs. So it looks like that this was called backup.zip. So let's just change that to backup.zip, and we need to go ahead and unzip backup.zip. It looks like there is a source code.php in there, and we need a password. Okay, so to crack into this, we can use zip to John, and we go ahead and grab this backup.zip and pipe the output to a hash. So this gives us this hash value that we can go ahead and try and crack. So let's go ahead and use John and put this hash through it with the word list of rocku. After we have run it, we can see here we've got our password for it. Now, if we go and unzip it, paste in that password, we can see we've got our source code here. Let's go ahead and look at what's in this. So it looks like some sort of PHP file for an admin portal. Looks like this was used at some point and might no longer be, and was for some reason hidden in a JPEG. And the thing that's pointing out is this if statement. We can say if the encoded password is equal to this, then we can go ahead and I assume log in and be authenticated and whatnot, because that'll then take us to the authenticated PHP. So this is the base64 encoded password that needs to meet these conditions. I know it's base64 because it has a couple equal signs, plus it is using some sort of function to check that. So what we can do is echo this base64 through a tool called base64 with the flag -d, and there we get our password. So we've got some loot here. We've got 3 users, which we confirmed are like users with shells that we can log in with. We do have this other password for a database that might be used. And then we have this very deeply hidden password that we've just found. So I'm going to kind of ignore this for right now, and we'll just focus on these 3 users and this password. So what I'm going to do is copy the 3 users. I'm going to create a users.txt file. I'm going to paste in our users and put 1 user on per line. And now what we can do with an uppercase L is actually pass through our 3 users all in one go. And we're going to try and log in with our found password via SSH to our IP. And we're going to see the output of what Hydra does. So one of these users hopefully is correct. Awesome. There we go. That kind of just saves us the time of having to manually go one user at a time. So now we know that this user belongs to this password. Now we can log in as this user. We say yes, and we can paste in our password that we've just confirmed is theirs, and we know we're going to log in as. So we've logged in at the home directory. Here we can see that source code.php that we had access to. What we're kind of interested in is checking out the other users. So let's use the -r for recursive, and let's see if there's anything interesting. It's uppercase R. So that's what we've seen. And in the home of Apache, we do have this local.txt. So let's try and change directories over there, and let's see if we can see anything else. Ooh, there's an interesting hidden file. And then there is our local.txt, which we don't have any permission. So even if we try, we're not going to be able to read it. But we do have read access over this helpline.sh. So that's interesting. So this runs as the user. So perhaps we can utilize this to get access to this user. So it looks like it runs bash, it echoes, welcome to help desk, reads something. I guess we've put in our name. It says hello us, prints a message, asks for a message rather, and then just chucks that out and then says thank you for your patience. It's kind of interesting. So if we just run that, we need to just specify that it's here, and because it's hidden, we need to specify that it's here. All right, help desk, enter the person. So yep, hello there. And that's kind of it. Okay, kind of weird. What can we do with this? The question is, I don't know. So I'm going to leave that alone. What I am going to do is come back to my reverse shell that I have and cancel that. And I'm going to locate linpeas. I'm going to go into my scripts. I'm going to start up a Python web server. I should have quad 8. Back on the target machine, let's make temporary directory. And that's going to go over here. Great. So let's go in there, and we're going to grab linpeas. So back on my local machine on port quad 8, we've got linpeas waiting there to go and get. That's a bad port number. Yes, it is. That will copy that over for us. And now we're in our directory. We've got that. One issue is we need to make it executable. So let's add the +x, which is going to give everyone executability. So let's go ahead and run that. I'm just going to make a copy of it because he is on this system, so I can linpeas.1 as a backup. And this is going to tell us maybe some more information about what we can do. So the first thing that I'm seeing in a 95% potential vector is a Docker container, or a Docker user, or a Docker group, sorry, user and groups. So there's Docker running. So we can possibly exploit a running Docker system to get a privilege shell. We do have a CVE here that we can go check out too. The system might be vulnerable to. When running like scripts like this, it's kind of just takes time just to go through it section by section, especially like checking if there's cron tabs running. Maybe there's something automated that we're trying to exploit. Currently, it doesn't really look like there's any of that. Going down to our network interfaces section, we can confirm again that Docker is definitely running. There's an interface for it right here. User information. Again, Docker is screaming out at us. So I think that that's our potential attack vector. Go over to GTFO bins and let's see if we've got anything on voila, Docker. So the first thing that we see here is there is a shell for Docker. So this requires the user to be privileged enough to run Docker, which I think we are. If we run ID, we can confirm, like we saw in our linpeas, we're definitely a part of this Docker group. So we are privileged enough to run Docker. We are in the Docker group. So we can run and get a shell. Let's see, it says it can be used to break out from restrictive environments by spawning an interactive system shell. They resulting in is a root shell. So it's going to run a Docker run. Looks like it's going to mount the whole file system and then it's going to execute shell. All right, let's give it a shot. Coming back here, pasting in our command, entering, and I see a pound symbol, which means we have escalated privileges. So we can go ahead and look recursively into the home directory, and we're going to go ahead and get that local.txt that we saw earlier. There we've got our first user flag. We'll paste that into tryhackme, and then let's look in our root directory. We've got a lot of hidden things that are pretty normal, but what we want is this proof.txt, which is going to give us the final flag. So let's paste that in, and that is our room completed. Awesome. Thank you so much for watching up until the end. Feel free to do all that YouTube stuff, like, comment, subscribe. Appreciate it. Up on the screen, you're going to see a recommended video to the Brooklyn Nine-Nine tryhackme walkthrough that I've just done. Great room. So definitely go check that out. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video. Thank you very much for watching.